Today we break down episode 6, we're talking Easter eggs, that weird commercial, and what exactly is Project Cataract. This and more on the after credits scene. What's up guys? Thanks for watching. I am super excited to get to all the goodies this episode has to offer. But before we do that, I want you to remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when we have new content posted. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter for more news and little tidbits as well. So let's dive right into this episode. First off, on the previously on WandaVision segment, has anyone noticed that Wanda's voice has gotten progressively more ominous each episode?
Previously on WandaVision. Previously on WandaVision. Previously on WandaVision. Previously on WandaVision. Previously on WandaVision.
There is not a moment of plot development lost when it comes to this show, and it is evident. And that includes the use of the Age of Ultron footage featuring Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver being shot and then followed by the cut of Evan Peters' version in episode 5. Now, as a fan of the 90s, this intro was by far my favorite. From the video camera footage to Vision phasing through the sofa as the dad, it was a great homage to Malcolm in the Middle, and I thought including Agnes in the intro footage as the cougar-style character, complete with bedazzled sweatpants, was a really nice touch, right down to the word naughty written right across her rear end. A little bit more foreshadowing with a slightly feel to it. And also, how cute are these kids, right? I was hooked as soon as Billy started going through his whole talking to the camera scene. Really, really cool and a nice little touch for the episode. Makes me really excited about the upcoming 2000s sitcom era episode. Quicksilver plays off really well in this genre as the lazy but cool uncle. And his introduction is not without some intrigue. Now, most every episode thus far has been filmed using the techniques and styles from the sitcoms of that era, like using fruit or jackets to cover up pregnant bellies, or the fake backgrounds used in episode 3. This shot right here has an interesting 90s style technique. Now, you can blame CGI or camera technology, but back then it was a lot harder to get a shot where you saw two different perspectives focused in the same shot. Now we can do that with lenses and computers, but the easy way back then around it was to shoot the same shot, but shoot it with two different cameras. One focused on the foreground and one focused on the background, and then splice those together. It works, except for this fuzzy little line between the two scenes. If you look at the movie Assassins with Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas, you can see that a lot. They use that type of scene a lot. Now here with Quicksilver and the kids, this line is visible, but I got to asking why. I think it's not only to fit the 90s trope, because they easily could have corrected it without that, but I think it's to hint at the separation between this Quicksilver and the kids here in this scene. Maybe it's a rift of some kind, maybe some kind of disconnect. On the nose, the reference to them being from separate realities is right there. But who knows? Maybe it was just a great camera trick created to give us an uneasy feeling watching the show between these characters. From here, we get to my favorite part of this episode, and that's the costumes. I've been waiting for this episode since the trailers came out, and it did not disappoint. Not only do we get the comic versions of Wanda and Vision, but also Quicksilver and Speed and Wiccan. You'll also notice that Quicksilver's hair, even though it's set up comic accurate, it closely resembles devil horns. Now, is that intentional? Is it a happy coincidence just to throw us off? I can't really say. The misdirect is definitely there, whether it's intentional or not. Now, is Quicksilver Mephisto or Nightmare in disguise? My money's on no, but based off comments and conversation, he is definitely aware in some way of how out of place he is in this world, and a little bit aware of what's going on in Westview. Now, he hasn't really shared that with anybody else, but the things he says lead me to believe that he's aware in some respects. Vision makes a sarcastic remark here that the costume was the only thing in his closet, so of course he was going to wear it. But then the two of them fall into some kind of romantic banter.
Corrigible, darling, I know you have a secret thing for Mexican wrestlers.
Me gusta mucho.
Chili con carne.
Oh,
Okay. I also appreciate the writers for giving real-world reasons for the costumes. Wanda's being a Sokovian fortune teller, and then Vision is a Mexican wrestler. It made for some clever reasoning as to the added choice for them to wear those things, and it gave a little wrinkle as to the character development that might pop up later. Maybe Wanda adds that element to her costume. We'll just have to wait and see. Who knows? But I thought it was a really nice touch. So here we go. Vision plans on going to the neighborhood watch, which he doesn't really do. And we get another disconnect between Wanda and Vision, where Wanda almost says, well, you're not supposed to go. And then she backs off and allows Vision to kind of go on his way. I think Quicksilver conveniently steps in here to offer to take care of the kids. Maybe he's being a good brother. Maybe this is another Mephisto reference where Mephisto's keeping the kids close for some kind of nefarious purpose. But even Billy here acknowledges in a fourth wall break with the camera that his parents are having trouble. And it's a really funny scene, but it's also a little unsettling. Side note here, did anyone catch Pietro's tattoo? It probably says Mom, but a quick look couldn't keep my mind from reading HOM in reference to the House of M comics, where Wanda slowly goes crazy and wreaks havoc on the world here. Cut to the outside of the Hex, where there is obviously a lot of movement going on. For starters, we get another look at the drone, which is still covered in that red glowing magic. A reminder here that the Hex, or Wanda's powers, are still affecting things, which is going to play into the revelations about Monica's condition. Monica here rightfully confronts Hayward, I think. I think everybody in the audience was wanting her to do that, about his use of the missile against Wanda, but Hayward's not having it.
I actually don't know. She's with me.
I see. And which one of you is the sassy best friend?
There's no time for you to diminish your...
These little TV tropes that keep popping up make me giddy every time because of the writer's awareness of what they're creating, and the little pokes that they make at it are really enjoyable. Hayward asking them who's the sassy friend in the group here. This was also the first time I really sympathized with Hayward. Even though they're arguing, it never really dawned on me that some people would distrust or even hate superheroes for the blip. We saw some of that chaos that it caused in episode 4, but it made me second guess Hayward's potential, villainous role. Not for long, but for a little bit. After that, we get an awesome physical clip here. Now, getting to see Jimmy Woo kick some butt like that was thoroughly enjoyable. And it was a really cool reminder that he's a trained FBI agent. And if you didn't think they'd thought of that already, notice how when Monica fires this gun in episode 4, Darcy freaks out, as you should, but Woo, who is a trained agent, doesn't blink at all.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
That's pretty cool stuff. When we rejoin life inside the Hex, we're greeted with something new.
This is it. Game time.
Hey, look, kids! It's as if someone wanted to drive home the point after being called out in episode 5 that, oh yeah, well here, all the kids! Now, the exchange here between Wanda and Pietro is very telling, and it gives us a lot of details to dig through. For starters, Wanda is clearly testing Pietro, and he even calls her out on it. And at first, this might read like he's hiding something. I think they play it off that way intentionally, but I really think that he's just more aware that he's from a different reality than hers, and his memories are just slightly different. I think that would explain it, as opposed to he's some villain in disguise. Now, Pietro calling the Hex Shangri-La is interesting, but then he also uses it as an excuse, in his mind, for Wanda choosing to change his face around so she wouldn't be reminded of her actual dead brother. It's a really weighty comment. He knows he looks different, and he definitely thinks that she's the cause, but even though she has to ask him, why do you look different? It's worth noting here that Shangri-La is a fictional place here. It pops up in a book called Lost Horizon by this guy named James Hilton. Shangri-La is described as a mystical, harmonious valley, a paradise that is isolated from the world. And Pietro is saying, if I was in this kind of place, I wouldn't want to be reminded of horrible things either. Almost a nod to like grief or distress. I think it's funny here that Pietro comically yells at the boys.
Unleash hell, demon spawn!
This is most definitely a reference to the fact that Mephisto's DNA was partially responsible for the creation of Tommy and Billy in the comics. Whether or not that's actually the case in the show remains to be seen, but I thought it was a really cool nod. Now, before we leave this conversation here, we have to acknowledge...
Yeah, kick ass.
I feel the need.
Force me. Ow!
Kick ass.
I mean, it's the little things, right? You just have to say thanks for that one. You didn't have to, but you did. Now, as we transition to Vision moving further and further away from Wanda, we start seeing the world that's not quite under her control, or so it seems her control. People standing still, unable to talk, and the woman hanging the line felt very Glitch in the Matrix to me. Either way, very, very creepy. Almost like they interjected their own X-Men Files type vibe into the episode. It's a really nice touch as things went from idyllic in the carnival scene to unnerving where Vision was, just in the blink of an eye. Now, as if things could not get creepier, we get this yogurt commercial right in the middle. Thank you, Marvel, for ruining my childhood. This was creepy. It was interesting to me that the commercial didn't have any obvious connection to previous PTSD moments in Wanda's life, although maybe her imprisonment on the raft after Civil War. But the conversations about the magic were a little too specific to fit that situation. The island obviously is the hex bubble here, and then the implication that you'll die if you can't open your magic was the only made scarier by the fact that we watched this child die right before our eyes.
Yo, magic! The snack for survivors.
That feels eerily similar to some foreshadowing, like we've seen it before. But here's my question. Who is the shark? Are we talking Mephisto? Are we talking Nightmare? Somebody else? I'm really interested to hear all you guys' guesses in the comments below. Now, once we return back to the carnival and Wanda, we get a lot of really fun Easter eggs. For starters, I'm sure everyone noticed the movies playing at the theater in the background, but here's a brief reminder that might shed some light on where the show may be going based off of those little theater titles. First, The Incredibles is 2 movies about a family of superheroes. In the first one, we see the dad kind of go rogue and go off and do his own thing. In the second one, we see the mom go rogue and go off and do her own thing. And then, in The Parent Trap, you guessed it, the kids go rogue. Now, what does this mean for Billy and Tommy in the future? I don't know, but I'm guessing we're definitely going to see not only more of their powers, but see that affect the storyline in some really major ways. It's at this point that Pietro goes full TV trope.
I'm just trying to do my part, okay? Come to town unexpectedly, create tension with the brother-in-law, stir up trouble with the Rugrats, and ultimately give you grief. I mean, that's what you wanted, isn't it?
He totally knows he has a role inside this fantasy thing, and he's willing to be a part of it. It would be cute if it wasn't so unsettling, because he seems to describe getting shot in the same way that we see Ultron Pietro get shot. But to me, something doesn't really sit right about the whole, I got shot like a chump in the street. Our MCU Pietro knew what he was doing whenever he stepped in front of those bullets for Hawkeye. But this new guy seems to be the only one balking at that. Also, the wounds that Wanda sees don't really seem consistent to me with the ones that we see from the previous Ultron clips. Maybe that's just me, but it seems like a misdirect, and I'm holding firm that this Pietro is from an alternate reality, complete with his slightly altered memories. But maybe he's being manipulated in some way. Then we jump back to the outside world where Wu, Monica, and Darcy are beginning to dig a little deeper on their own. Side note here, the numbers on the wall as they walk in could be references to 3 separate comic books. West Coast Avengers Volume 2, number 30, which includes the entire WandaVision family. West Coast Avengers 56, which sees Scarlet Witch embracing her bigger, better, and darker powers. And then Vision and Scarlet Witch number 4, which sees Magneto creating a large force field around our heroes, including Wanda and Quicksilver, which actually causes Wanda to attempt to break the field by casting, their words, not mine, a hex of some sort. Really cool little things there, although I don't know what ATFU stands for. Now, as the three of these people try to figure out what's going on, Darcy stays behind to try to get more information about Hayward's files while Wu and Monica leave to rendezvous with this mysterious aerospace engineer. More on that later. It's here that Darcy reveals that Monica's DNA has been altered by her passing through the boundary of the Hex. If this is life-altering, like superhero-altering, which I believe sets up Monica as Photon, what does that mean for the new people from S.W.O.R.D. that are swallowed up by the Hex, or even Darcy for that matter? And the drone, which we know is still pulsing with that red power, which passed through the radiation not once, not twice, but 3 times now. We also get a tip of the hat here to some different team members on the WandaVision staff in the form of email addresses that pop up on Darcy's computer. At least one of whom is this guy named James Alexander, who's in the visual effects department. I thought that was really, really cool nod to a lot of those guys. Back in the Hex, we see Vision again investigating nearer to the boundary where he finds Agnes stopped at the edge of Ellis Street.
You're one of the Avengers. You're Vision. Are you here to help us?
I am Vision. I do want to help. But what's an Avenger?
What? Why don't you know? Am I dead?
No, no. Why would you think that?
Because you are.
Unlike the other people that Vision's encountered, she can respond to him when he talks to her, but she's also under some kind of spell because Vision's able to like break her out of it. This is where the trailer editors really made their money, I think. They want us to think, like many of the theories that I've heard, that Agnes somehow sees that Vision's dead somehow. But this conversation starts off with Agnes recognizing Vision as an Avenger, which he doesn't know, what's an Avenger. But I think she's merely responding to the fact that, as far as she knows, he died in the Battle of Wakanda. So if he's dead, maybe she's dead too, and they're in some kind of afterlife. This exchange is the first time that I was really thrown by the whole Agus is Agnetha Harkness, and she's in on the action theory. Or maybe she's under a spell. I don't know. Maybe she drove outside of Wanda's influence, outside the bubble, and that's what happened. There's just too many questions here. Now, as Wanda and Pietro talk, he lets on even more about how aware he is, maybe ignorant, of what's going on in Westview. This seems to me to be the most on-the-nose scenario for Pietro being somebody else, because he's questioning his reality leads to Wanda getting to explore her powers a little more.
You don't think it's wrong?
Are you kidding? I'm impressed. Seriously, it's a pretty big leap from giving people nightmares and shooting red wiggly woos out of your hands. How'd you even do all this?
And that's the million-dollar question. How did you do this? It's what everybody's wondering. Given that I'm still guessing she didn't intentionally do it, it seems to be the easiest answer. And I don't think the simple explanation is going to be the correct one here, given all the mystery surrounding the show. It would be a letdown at this point to flip around and say, yeah, it's Wanda. Roll credits. I think there's definitely more to it. Now, here's where we get Wanda's first real pause to think about what happened pre-Hex.
I don't know how I did it. I only remember feeling completely alone. Empty. Just endless nothingness.
Now, what she means by endless nothingness is anybody's guess. Reference to her grief, maybe? The power of some unseen villain? That's probably likely. There's a weird theory that she's tapped into some kind of world inside the Infinity Stones, specifically the Mind Stones, since they're connected. Vision and Wanda are connected by the Mind Stone. In Endgame, we see inside the Soul Stone whenever Thanos snaps. So the existence of other planes based on the stones isn't exactly new information. Maybe Wanda tapped into something there. I know based on the trailers, we're going to get some more shots of what happened when she was experimented on. Maybe that's what that's leading to. But that seems like a leap to me as well, although I did find that in some of my research. Now to Darcy's big discovery and the newest MacGuffin of the season, Project Cataract. What is Hayward doing, and why keep it so secret? So let's go crazy for a bit. Cataracts are an eye condition caused by the deterioration of the lens of the eye, causing clumps of cells that appear as blurred vision around the center or the periphery of the eyeball. This condition can be alleviated by simple day surgery that removes the bad lens and replaces it with a new artificial one, thus restoring your vision. Did you hear me? Restoring your vision! Now, if I have to speculate, and that's exactly what I'm going to do because that's why I made these videos, it's that Hayward's intending to somehow create an artificial vision from the lost vision. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments and speculate all you want. That's about as much as I've got, and all that is based off of a title on a computer screen. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. We finally see Vision come face to face with the edge of the Westview boundary, and here's the climax of the episode. I think it's a little cool. It's cool and a little bit, say what? That when Vision approaches the boundary, it reaches out to him. What's that about? You know what? Forget it. Vision bursts through the wall here, breaks through the wall, and starts to fall apart. Duh. Actually, not really, because I thought he'd like fall dead or something. The Hex does seem to be holding him somehow while he sits there and begs for the lives of the people in Westview. And Hayward just sits there looking on with curiosity and saying creepy things like,
He really does want out, doesn't he?
whatever, man. Back inside the Hex, we get to see that Billy's powers are becoming more active as well, as he warns Wanda that something's wrong with Vision. I thought she'd fly over and confront Sword again, but this was so much better. Now, when she gets angry at Pietro and slams him through the headstones, we get a little nod at Janelle Sammelman, I hope I said that right, who's an assistant director on the show, and then some random headstone that says Dr. Rivas. Now, I really don't know what that means, but Rivas is an anagram for virus, and that seems like something, so I'll take it. This whole climax really feels like the first time the Wanda's flexed her powers, and at the same time really punished anybody for interfering by just enveloping everyone else. This next episode is going to have a lot of moving parts since we now have a whole gaggle of Sword agents and Darcy inside the Hex. What about their DNA now that they've passed through the barrier? Vision's out cold, laying in a pasture somewhere, and you know the conversation with Wanda is not going to be awesome. Then we've got Hayward in an SUV outside the Hex, traveling away, and Monica and Wu are in another vehicle on their way to meet the engineer, which is who, by the way? A lot of folks in the Twitter sphere really want it to be Reed Richards. And I suppose it could be. I think it would be awesome if it was, but I think that really takes away from the show to run the marketing in a totally different direction towards a different property with only 2 episodes left. My guess is... no guess, really. I really want it to be Fitz, or maybe Simmons, or maybe Fitzsimmons. That'd just be a lot of fun, and it would be another connection to some other worlds. What do you guys think about these theories and other upcoming mysteries in the next episode? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe on here. Check out Instagram and Twitter and subscribe to us there. And check out our website, theaftercreditscene.com, for more articles and videos that are coming each week. That's it for me, guys. That's all I got. See you next time.